Well, here we are again. So that's not a depressing song. It's actually kind of an uplifting song. You know, it's basically saying there's nothing to be afraid of. And in these times, we are in many ways surrounded by death, and 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 it's difficult for us to address death and illness and hatred and division. I hate to even say the word division because it's like saying oxygen is just everywhere. Um, But let me get the gospel reading here. The gospel today comes from Matthew 16, uh, chapter 16, 13 through 20. A very often quoted passage. Now, when Jesus came into the district of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, "Who do people say that the Son of Man is?" And they said, "Some say John the Baptist, but others Elijah, and still others Jeremiah, or one of the prophets." And he said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" Simon Peter answered, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." And Jesus answered him, "Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father in heaven. And I tell you, you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not prevail against it. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. And whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven." Then he sternly ordered the disciples not to tell anyone that he was the Messiah. I love that passage. I especially like the last sentence. Don't tell anybody. Okay. Don't tell anyone. Let them, in other words, let them find out for themselves. That's the that's the real message. I mean, he doesn't come out and say, "I'm the Son of God. I am the Son of the living God. I am the Messiah." Jesus never says those things. He says is, "Who do you say I am?" And in fact, at his trial, it's exactly the answer. They said, "Are you, the Son of God?" And he said, "I am who you say I am." But in this passage, and what is so fascinating to me about it, and what is so, I think, compelling about this passage and relevant to our daily affairs, is that Jesus asks his disciples, embodied in Peter. I mean, he didn't go to every one of them and say, "What do you think I am? Who do you think I am?" He just says, it picks Peter. Peter is the embodiment of all the disciples. And Peter says, "Well, you're the Son of the living God." Now, the first thing Jesus does is he says, "What are people saying? What are you saying about me? What's the buzz? Tell me what's happening." You know, the old musical, Jesus Christ Superstar. What's the buzz? Tell me what's happening. What are people saying about me? Because he knows that his disciples are going out and hearing what people are saying and responding to what people are saying. And he wants to know, what are they saying about him? And of course, one of the disciples says, "Well, some people say this, and some people say that," and then Jesus asks the pointed question, and you can't get away from it. People always go, "Oh, I wish I could see Jesus," and I'm always thinking, I don't think I really want to because he's got tough. I mean, he's got tough questions. You can't avoid them. "Who do you think I am?" He says. He says to Peter, "Simon Peter, who do you think I am?" And he calls Simon Peter by his full name, Simon Peter, son of whatever that is, Jonah. I don't know what the son of somebody. I never follow. Son of Jonah. Hey, got that right. Uh, and Peter, it's like saying, when my mother was angry at me and she wanted to put me on the spot, she didn't say Billy. She always called me Billy Painter, full name. I gave up Billy years ago, but anybody calls me Billy right now, I'm like, what? What did I do wrong? So Jesus calls him by his name. And names are important because names define you. Names define who you are. That's why I don't go by Billy anymore. I don't look like a Billy. I mean, Billy? I mean, that's like if I were my age of Billy, I'd have to be drinking a Bush Light, with a gimme cap on. I guess I do wear a gimme cap. Standing by my pickup truck. Okay, that's what a Billy does, right? I'm William, and that's my proper name, and that's my real name, and that's what I like for people to call me because I think of myself that William is a dignified name. Is a name that communicates basically the kind of person I am. Not that I'm dignified, but I do have an impact on people. And so Jesus calls him by his full name. He perks up, you can just see it. He perks up, what? And Jesus says, right, so who do you say I am? And Peter gives him the answer. You are the Messiah. You are the Son of the living God. And Jesus says, blessed are you, because you didn't get this from evidence. You got this from your heart, from the Father. Or, you know, we say father, mother. It doesn't matter. I don't even know what the gender is. It is irrelevant. But you get it from God. God gave you that answer. God put that answer in your heart. And you're blessed. Just like last week, it was blessed are the meek and blessed are the poor. And this is a blessing. This is a blessing. And the minute that Jesus gets that answer from him and tells him he's blessed, he says, your name is Peter. And upon this rock I will build my church. Now everybody knows the pun, I guess, that's in there. Jesus had a wonderful way with language, not surprisingly. And so Peter means rock. And so it's a double entendre, He says, upon this rock, Peter, I will build my church. And Peter is a flawed character. Peter's not perfect. Peter's not the best. I mean, I don't even know who the best. Isn't Peter the guy who denied him 3 times? Okay. Isn't Peter, he fell asleep with everybody else, I mean, the disciples always think of the disciples as like Keystone Cops showing up, They just do crazy, silly things, and then they get in their cars and drive off. Peter is a flawed person. The disciples are all of us. We're all flawed people. These are not, archangels coming down in magnificence. A host of angels accompanying Jesus everywhere he went, because then you would not be able to say it comes from the heart. You'd be able to say, oh, well, look, all those archangels there. I mean, Jiminy Christmas. He's got to be the Son of God. Look at look at the regalia he's wearing, But no, he's a simple man in simple clothing with simple disciples who are flawed, like we are flawed. And as soon as Peter defines Jesus, Peter is defined. As soon as you define Jesus as being a loving, passionate, forgiving person who is God on earth, who says to us very strange things like, blessed are the poor, blessed are the meek. They're not, when someone says that to you, blessed are the poor, you're like, no, man, they're just poor. In our society, we blame the poor all the time. I was reading some silly post, and some guy said, well, if they had jobs to go to, they wouldn't be rioting. And I thought, oh my gosh, here's this guy blaming. There's a lot going on in that stupid sentence. He's blaming rioting on the fact that they're poor and they don't have jobs. Because if you don't have a job, you're poor, right? So he's essentially blaming the poor for something that's happening because of completely different reasons. The fact of the matter is, most of the people demonstrating, I think, were white middle class young people, millennials. Wouldn't call them rich, but they weren't exactly begging in the streets either. They weren't poor. So we like to blame the poor. But once you define Jesus as being a loving, caring, giving, then you define yourself. Is Jesus someone who condemns people to hell? To eternal torment? Because if that's the way you define Jesus, and I don't know where you get that out of the New Testament, but if that's where you define Jesus, then that's how you're defining yourself, as a judgmental individual who is capable of consigning someone to eternal torment. Yeah. But if you also define Jesus as being caring and giving, and a person who reached out to the poor and reached out to the stranger and said, take care of immigrants and take care of everybody and love your neighbor and love God, if that's how you define Jesus, then you kind of run out of choices as to what you are. Because if you're saying that he is the Son of God, and then how can you go about the rest of your life without fighting for righteousness, without being a social justice warrior? You know, people use that phrase like it's a bad thing. Well, Jesus was a social justice warrior. He was the first one that I know of. Maybe Elijah, maybe Isaiah. He was certainly in that tradition. This last 2 weeks, I lost a very, very, very dear friend. It was a surprise. He just had a massive heart attack and died. And he was a devout Mormon. I loved him dearly. He was my boss, of all things. He left me with several little phrases. Just keep smiling. Nobody likes to be told that their baby's ugly. That was another one of his phrases. One I've really not learned yet. I'm always telling people their babies, not actual babies, but they're little projects. Unvarnished truth is, I'm afraid I'm a victim of unvarnished truth. But anyway, Stu Finnegan stood as he wasn't perfect. He wasn't magnificent. He was just a good man. And he died. And the world is less of a place because of his absence. But what I knew about Stu is that he was profoundly devout. I didn't agree with his theology, but he really believed that education was a way of lifting up people. Education was a doorway that we should welcome people through, and it is a way for people to elevate themselves, to see the world as a different place, to protect and lift up their families and their communities and their businesses. That education was a pathway to greatness, in fact. And in our world, you know, education, it's not just getting your ticket punched. It changes your mind. It changes your perspective. It changes everything about you. And the reason I'm going on this little detour here is because if you say you are a follower of Jesus, if you are Peter, and we are all Peter, we're all cracked rocks. And in spite of those imperfections, we are followers, we are disciples, then we are obligated to stand up against racism. We are obligated to stand up against lies. We are obligated to wear a mask, all right? Not just because it protects us, but because it protects those around us as well. We are obligated to be active participants in this life that God has created for us. We are obligated to love our neighbor, you know, and I keep flogging that horse because that is the horse. It's the only horse there is. And I don't really spend a lot of time worrying about whether there's heaven or whether there's hell or theology. Jesus was not a theologian. Yeah. Can you imagine Jesus showing up at the Council of Nicaea, you know, just boom, just, you know, just appearing out of thin air and calling them all out? You know, wouldn't that have been an amazing moment, right? But no, he lets us pursue our follies, our intellectual contrivances to explain Jesus's existence in a tripartite, triune God. I don't spend any time, no time at all, worrying over those things or even thinking about those things. Because Jesus didn't say, hey, you know, maybe you should sort of work out the metaphysical relationship between me, the Holy Spirit, and the Father. He never said that. Good luck finding that one, okay? He never said that. He said, just love your neighbor and love God. Feed the poor. Don't give yourself up over to vicious Rome. Roman rule. You know, we don't really appreciate Roman rule the way it should be appreciated, right? I used to ask my father, he was a historian, I said, well, you know, wasn't Rome great? When I was a little kid, wasn't Rome great? They did all these great things, they built these buildings. He said, The best thing that ever happened to Rome was that it fell. And they could only do two things well: build roads and make laws. But they lined the road. They were so creative in torturing people. They made it possible for you to die by drowning above ground where there's no water around. Crucifixion. And there were so many people who wanted to be Roman or be like the Romans or emulate the Romans or all that. And Jesus says, yeah, let that go on and do its stuff. The real kingdom is the kingdom of God. And my disciples are bringing the kingdom of God. And my church is my disciples. Because he knew they were gonna do this. They had to do this. We are faced with extraordinary circumstances of a pandemic that is raging, that is bringing out the politics of despair from our leadership or lack of leadership. The politics of nihilism, where it doesn't, oh, grandma should be willing to give her life up to promote the economy. I've never heard anything so ridiculous in my life, so anti-Christian as that. And I am angered to my core when I hear things like that. And the reason I'm angered is because I define Jesus as the Son of Man and the Son of the living God who loves us and commands us to love others. And pushing the economy forward is not an act of love. I wish you all the best. Be strong. Be patient. Be careful. Love God. Love your neighbor. And I'll see you in a couple of weeks.